So, welcome to another edition of the Influence Global podcast, and I'm really chuffed to bits to having a really cool number one global influencer with me today, all the way from Switzerland, and that is Spiros Margaris. It's lovely to see you, Spiros. How are you?
All right. Thanks for having me, Gordon. It's a great privilege, and I love what you do for the industry, and it's a great privilege to be on your show.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. So tell us a little bit about what you do, because although you come up in a lot of these influencer indexes, but of course that isn't your full-time role. So tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yes, I'm an investor in several startups in the fintech space, healthcare, cybersecurity, globally, and from Singapore to Greece to Germany, it's just everywhere globally, and
Yeah.
very fortunate to have that kind of role and influencer that's on top, but which is a privilege too.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
be an
So
influencer in your industry. It's a great privilege.
yeah, no, that's great to hear. Oh, you were born in obviously Greece. When did you move? And then you moved to
No,
America, didn't you?
I was
Oh,
born in
you were
Switzerland.
born in Switzerland. I beg your pardon.
Born and
Right.
raised in Switzerland. My parents are Greek, and my first wife was American. So that's why I lived in America for over 15 years,
Yeah.
and it was a good time. And
And how did
I'm
you get how
often
did you
there.
get into investing then?
Oh, I come from the hedge fund business, and I've been in the asset management business for a long time until about 2010.
Hmm.
And I had my own startups, um, my own failures as well. And then by accident, I moved in the fintech space as well by investing in one. And I grew with the industry. But we have to explain people that the fintech space existed probably before. It was just not called fintech.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, it was just a tech industry or financial technology industry. But then through the branding of fintech, that helped the industry a lot in every respect, because people could associate something. I mean, at the beginning, it was very difficult. When you
Yeah.
told people what you did, people had difficulty get a grasp of what you're doing.
Well, that's quite interesting. Even with the word influencer and the word B2B influencer, even now, I mean, actually, influencer marketing is just like emperor's new clothes. We've trusted the opinions of people for centuries, haven't we? With word of mouth marketing, it's just got an. But it's interesting. The analogy that you create with fintech is similar to influencer marketing. It's put a label on it, and it's given us a sense of professionalism around what people do. Although that said, of course, probably a lot of people in the B2B space may not necessarily always call themselves influencers. They may call themselves other roles, investors, entrepreneurs, all sorts of different things. So where did you start to notice that you were, being picked up by some of these influencer platforms and agencies and partners?
At the beginning, at 2014, 15, I don't remember exactly. Those ranks that came out in the UK, Onalytica came, one of the most respected, probably in my view, the most respected platform,
Yes.
and all these things started to be measured, and that's and it was good to realize, oh, it's nice to be ranked, but you have to put a lot of work in it as well. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not that people have a misconception, also in the B2B, that, maybe some CEOs have a misconception. They think, oh, influencer, that's something my daughter talks about.
Exactly. Yes.
And how does it relate to my business? But it very much relates to their business. It's just, it's a thought leadership, and everyone brings different aspects to the business. I mean, I come from the investment part, and it gets everyone brings a different angle, but
Yeah.
you have to keep up the credibility.
Mm, mm.
You
So,
have
so
to
important.
associate yourself with things you believe in, and you can sell out.
So, what sort of stuff have you got involved in when you talk about thought leadership? What does that mean? So, for example, if I was a brand and I wanted to have Spiros work with me, what does that look like?
I usually, because I don't have much time for I don't write pieces. When I write an article, I write because I want to write it.
Hmm.
Basically, anything which I write maybe once or twice a year, something, a thought leadership piece. Usually it's my Twitter followers, things I share because I read them for my work, or I read them because I find them interesting. Even things I don't agree, I always stress on this. And when big companies like IBM, SAP, Microsoft, you name it, and I worked with all of them, they usually have great products. I
Mm.
mean, besides the large institutions, they have great products which will be interesting maybe for other fintech startups or companies or for the industry in itself. So I learn we have podcasts. Usually it's a podcast. I do a podcast with them, and then we agree on the things we would like to talk about, things that interest me and things I would like to talk about. But hopefully it's always something that enlightens the industry in some ways, that those cool projects are, on their way, like I do one with PayPal. But I must say, you can learn so much. It's not only incumbents, established players and new players. You can learn from everyone.
Yeah, no.
And for me, it's fantastic. You talk to very interesting people who have. Enough for my viewers and listeners.
Sorry, I'm just going to stop that, Spiros. For some reason, it froze. The screen froze a few seconds ago.
No
Uh,
problem. I repeat this.
just that last sentence, yeah, because it.
You usually those experts from those big companies, they have something to say and to give, and they're very open about the products and solutions, which is very useful for the industry. I think it's at least it's very useful for me. I mean, because you can't know everything anyway. Nobody can, but you miss things, and
Of
by
course.
discussing things, you hear things. Oh, I didn't know that exists. I didn't know this was so important, and that's how you share it.
Yeah, and I think we're now in the sort of storytelling era, aren't we? People can't consume huge amounts of information. So I guess one of the benefits that you bring to the party, or thought leading influences, is that they cut away a lot of the chat, and they focus on what really matters in a way that people can easily digest, whether it be visually or listen to it in their ears.
If I find it interesting, then there's a hope other people might find it as well interesting.
Yeah,
If it
yeah,
becomes
yeah,
so technical, there's a place for it, but not on my platform.
yeah.
It's more the storytelling. Why did we develop this? Why is it a benefit to people? And then also question it maybe a little bit in a good way.
Yeah, yeah. No, in a way, yeah, so that you're seen as a reviewer, not just necessarily a promoter.
No, you don't want to be a promoter because it's not
Exactly.
indirectly you promote always with your brand, you know. But like I'm in several think tanks, so when people pitch something, like the people on the stage, we always tell them don't sell, you
Yeah.
know, share your insights, share insights of what difficulties your customers had and how you overcame them, because that's useful, because
Mm,
it's like, oh, I never thought of doing it that way or whatever. But and that's much, because if people are interested in your solution, they will come anyway back and dig deeper.
yeah. Yeah.
This half-hour podcast will not allow to go that deep. It's more like uh, give a solution a platform to shine a little bit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, what do you think are some of the qualities of a B2B influencer? What do some of the things that you've clearly done, which you do naturally, and particularly in your role as a global influencer
In the
leader
fintech
in the
space.
fintech space. But I'm also thinking about people that are coming up and clearly have good ideas and want to be that sort of thought leader, what sort of advice and tips might you give them?
You have to support the community you're in. Basically, it's, I see some influencers, I mention this often, that I go on the timeline, it's only them. All right, it might be okay. But that's not the real influence. Influence because, there's so many great, smart people around you that you know, and they share great stuff. So you share their stuff. So basically, I share every day. I go to the ones I like and share their stuff.
Yeah.
And when I share something, not from other people, which I've read, I always add the person who wrote the piece, because you have to give them credit, because
Yeah.
they did the hard work. If it's
Of course.
McKinsey or if it's an author from a newspaper, they wrote the piece, they researched it.
Of course. Yeah.
So I take the time and look them up and
Yeah.
add it on the tweet or LinkedIn.
Yeah. And that's nice. I think also it's not just nice
It
for
takes
the
much more time, but it's giving credit to people who should get the credit, who wrote the piece.
Yeah, yeah. And also I think your role is then being seen as a curator. So you are helping your audience bring what is interesting out there and
Yes,
and
that's what.
bringing it to them in bite-sized chunks and say, look, I've found some interesting stuff on from PayPal or from this company or from that company.
From a newspaper
Or from a
article, whatever.
newspaper. Yeah. And you are then, condensing it down in your tone of voice. But you're saying this is an article I saw recently, which I thought, which you might find interesting. Thank you, John James, or whatever. It's nice, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, curator is good. I curate it for myself and share it with my community.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. That's really cool.
But the nice thing about this is, I mean, you read a lot. I always read a lot, but you get a good sense where things are moving. Not from one article or one source, but it's a sum of the information that takes you in a certain direction. I give another example. When I did a podcast, I mean, thought leadership means also that not only curating, but also expressing opinions, and sticking your head out and say, okay, that's my opinion. I might be wrong. And one thing I'm very proud of him, but that's why I like those podcasts sometimes, because it gets recorded. Like, I don't know when it was, last year, or when I talked about electricity, that, I'm not for cashless society for different reasons, because cashless society leaves out some people who don't have a credit card or whatever. They might have some dollars and they want to spend it, and privacy, etc. So, and I said, we might not have electricity. I could not foresee the war, because no one could foresee this. But we've seen in China there were earthquakes and people didn't have electricity for 3 weeks. And those people always have cash with them. So although my business is a cashless society and credit card payments, etc., everything in a digital world, I have to express as well concerns that I'm a big believer in cash as well, because for different reasons. And here we're talking about, sometimes in Switzerland, a very wealthy country, that we might not have electricity for a few hours or whatever. So how are you going to pay for milk or whatever?
Yeah.
So that's the opportunity to, as a thought leader, to bring up concerns which might be not very popular in the industry, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk a lot about because AI is also, I'm an influencer in the AI space, artificial intelligence. I talk always about people losing jobs,
Yeah,
and
for
people say,
sure.
oh, other people find jobs, but in the process, there will be a lot of people, if we don't have a universal basic income, that will not have jobs. And if people don't have jobs, then we have other issues. But I mean, that's I brought this in, although this was not the question, but it is things I talk about it as an influencer.
But I like that. I like listening to what you just said because in a way it just gives a much more rounded opinion that isn't just necessarily one driven by commercial aims, but social impact, of which makes
Absolutely.
somebody interesting as an individual as well. So no, that's really good to hear that as well. I mean, we're now in this. I mean, if you look what happened in COVID, we often I've heard people say we've moved our society forward 10 years in terms of technology and embracing new things. But you know, with anything new, you're right. Some people get left behind that are not able to do it. How are we, as it happens, my bless her, my 80-plus-year-old mum connects with me on Zoom, but I've just been used to that. But not everybody is able to do that. So there are pros and cons in everything really, and it's important, I think, with all sorts of technology that we bring people with us and we hear the opinions of the naysayers sometimes as well. And I think
Absolutely.
it's a good point that you raised.
Sometimes it's good to slow down a little bit. I mean, I I had a TEDx talk 2017, and I was saying something which I'm still a strong believer, that the legacy of fintech will be to help the less privileged people.
Yeah.
It's not to enable me to have faster payment services or digital banking. It's helping less privileged people to have uh, services which we take for granted, the underbanked, the unbanked, or in India now through fintech, women can open bank accounts where before it was only, in general, only the boys. So
Yes.
women were left out of the financial system. But now with fintech and financial solutions, they can open bank accounts, they can have their own businesses, etc. So I mean, that's just one example.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
Yeah. Yeah.
it's fintech is an enabler.
Yeah. It's enabler.
Can be.
Yeah, I mean, I recently set up another business, and I had an online bank, and the speed in which I was able to have that business bank opened was phenomenal. I mean, it really amazed me that would have taken quite a long while, if I'm honest, for a traditional bank. So yeah, it was quite impressive actually.
I think that's a magic, and I maybe because I'm getting older, hopefully it's not my age only. You think more and more, how can we give something back? You
Yeah.
know, how can we help? And if you go to America, I've been a month ago in America, the discrepancy between rich and poor is much bigger now. You know, you walk on the street in San Francisco. I mean, you
Yeah.
realize, it's there's
Well,
much to do. Too
well,
much to do to help the less privileged people to have a decent life.
yeah. Well, isn't it something like a massive percentage of America's wealth is in only a handful of people? The percentages I was looking at the other day are huge,
But everyone can help. We
of
don't
course
have
they
to
can.
billionaires, whatever. Everyone has to do a little bit, if we talk about it,
Yeah.
uh, if we contribute some. I mean, I just, you know, yeah, this is something that yes, it's very important to me at
Yeah.
least.
No, no, I can see. No. Well, let's talk a bit about different types of content creation. So you've talked about adding your own commentary, and you've talked a little bit about Twitter. Do you do much in the way of video content at
Oh,
all? Because
no,
that,
I don't. Yeah, I don't think. I believe it's very important, but it's just one channel. I think it's important. Usually, when I do podcasts, I do video plus audio because some people listen listen to podcast on the way to work or whatever.
yeah,
So I think it has its place, and I just don't have the time. But I think people who are much more into video, yeah, they have probably a strong opinion of this.
yeah,
It's for me. I do Twitter and LinkedIn, and I do podcasts,
yeah,
or I do my keynote speeches. But no, I don't. Then we could talk about TikTok. Is TikTok something for B2B? I don't think so. But is it for B2C? Yes.
yeah, yeah. Although you say that, increasingly people that are in the B2B space are having a go and looking at trying to even like estate agents and or business lawyers and stuff like that are moving into the TikTok space because a lot of their competitors are not there yet. So
Good point.
they're finding interesting stories to talk about, and more importantly, you know, when you look at some of these young entrepreneurs now that are under 30, they are certainly on TikTok, and
Good point.
therefore,
Good
it's a
point.
great way to engage these people in what is digitally first.
Yes, I haven't thought of that. You know, you have to know your audience. And if the audience is below 30 as well, then
Correct.
TikTok, obviously,
Yes.
with the channel, you
Yes.
know. But you know, or politicians, I can see, but some people look just ridiculous on it. You know that, you know, because you have to take your audience seriously, you know, serious, and that's how you come across. You know,
Yeah. No, no, I think it's
respect listeners, you know. But if you just don't go on TikTok and you're not a teenager anymore and do crazy stuff, maybe just, you know, try to fake it to be part of them,
yeah, no,
which
no.
they will hate.
So you're
It's
not
like,
even on I actually am on TikTok a little bit, but only
and
only because
how
I
does it
believe.
resonate?
Eh?
But you know, if you go on TikTok, do you promote or talk about things the same way as you do on YouTube?
Well, to be honest, I'm only on it in a small way. To be honest, it's much about it's some of the teachings I provide on influencer
Oh,
marketing, because obviously influencer marketing covers both the B2B space and the B2C area, and that's why probably it would make more sense for me to be there.
one, that makes a lot of sense then,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
But I've seen some people who I've seen something on TV, some politicians who just, I don't know, it's just not
It doesn't look
the
right, does it? Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
not because, but if they were, if they would, if they would share some insights, you know, yes, it would be great.
yeah, yeah,
But if they just, you know, I don't know.
yeah. No, I
But
mean,
in your business, it makes a lot of sense because when we're talking about influence, B2B, B2C, and TikTok is the venue. I mean,
yeah, yeah. Well, you know what I always say, you know, content should be about educating, entertaining, and inspiring. You know, those are my three words that I think, and so, you know, why do we when we look at a post or a video or a tweet, what makes us want to share it, like it, comment it? It's because it's some form of emotional reaction to us.
at
Either it's,
best,
you
yes.
know, and you know, look how many were reacting to the death of the Queen, for example. People were had emotions they never thought they would have. But it became a quite a huge, overwhelming sense of connection with social media.
You know,
Um,
but the Queen itself, in herself, you know, I mean, she was an influencer for
she
the royal
was,
family
she was, yeah,
because she
and
represented the values, a lot of things, and people had through her and through all the people who were involved in, as an example, have a positive view
mm,
on
mm.
the royal family.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
Or
she.
vice versa, if you don't behave well, you might have a different effect.
But I think she has a sense of authority as well, authority and respect, and I think those are very good qualities of people that have influence. You know, not all influencers. I mean, Gary Vee, for example, quite a well-known B2B influencer. You know, he has people that just don't like him, but he has because he's so in your face type of authenticity about who he is. And I love putting him as an example of a really authentic individual human being and influencer. But some of his style doesn't resonate with everybody. But you know, he gets noticed. And I think what we're going to love to hear your view on this about how important personal branding is to companies now, because I think more and more people are trusting individuals. In fact, you mentioned IBM earlier. I did an interview with IBM, who now have this IBMers within their company. You may know
Yes,
it's their advocacy program,
I
and
know.
they realize that of course their experts are not necessarily their salespeople, but actually quite a lot of their technical experts. They realize that these are highly influential people with our clients, and maybe if we provide content and support for them, they might want to share it. So I just wondered what your thoughts are about the human impact, I as employees within businesses, or just brand people led, as opposed to just lots of banner advertising and traditional.
Oh, it's nobody brought it up that way, but it's a good question because the more technology, the more tech has a place in our life, like which it seems like all over. There's almost no aspect of our life there's no technology, from
Mm,
dating to buying, you name it. The more humans will play a role
mm,
to humanize technology.
definitely, definitely.
To humanize technology, because at the end of the day, it's a human who will buy things or will benefit hopefully from the technology, and we can. It's always good if we believe that humans are still in charge.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That we're not driven by robots. That's
Yes, and that there's still humans behind the technology, and tech is just an enabler of a vision of solutions. That's why, I mean, you had Steve Jobs for Apple. I mean, without Steve Jobs, I mean, if there were no leadership, then tech becomes not, there's no emotions to it, because you can have affection to technology, you can have good feelings, because it enables you to do something.
yeah.
And I'm a strong believer that humans, influencers, no matter what, however we want to call them, uh, humans will always play a part.
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean,
look
it's
at
interesting.
Zuckerberg. You might like him or not, but without Zuckerberg, Facebook would be not a brand, would be not the same brand.
Of course, of course. I mean, what is quite fascinating about these individuals, they are, they've almost got fan worship behind them, haven't they? I mean, Steve Jobs's conferences were epic, weren't they? I
Legendary.
mean, legendary, and when he walked up onto the stage, you could hear a pin drop, I mean, I hadn't seen them, but I know that
I haven't seen them live. I mean, I've seen them live through,
recorded.
yes, but not in person. But
Yeah, yeah.
yes. But
Um,
but that's my theory. I mean, we've seen avatars that look very human, and in China they tell the news, or you will have chatbots talking to people that look like humans.
what did you say
Actually,
just then? Did you say Chinese news with avatars? Did I
yeah,
hear you say
they tried that, and
what? What?
no, but I
Really?
mean, at the end of the day, it's like curated news by AI.
Right, okay. Yeah.
Everything exists and people experiment, but as we still try to fake there are humans behind it. You
Mm.
have influencers that are avatars,
Well, you do CGI, computer generated
exactly,
influences, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, no, and
and
I know.
some people like it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I
Obviously,
mean, little Michaela, I think, is got over 4 million followers on Instagram. I mean, insane. And you look at her Instagram account, and you think that person looks real. And
yes. I mean, that's already easily done
yeah,
now.
yeah,
But
yeah,
uh,
fascinating. Hey,
I
look,
think it's like food. Some people like this, some people like that, and same people in our business. I think the value comes from being authentic, and
mm,
an avatar can never be authentic. I mean, they can be very good. I mean, they can be very professional. When I give speeches, I gave the opening speech 2019, the largest IBM event in Europe. Things don't have to be perfect. Actually, people are listen more if it's not perfect, because then it becomes real.
yeah, no, I love that. I love that.
Perfection is not real. It is somehow real, but people can't relate to perfection.
Yeah,
I'm very much into art. All great artists always have something ugly in their paintings that doesn't match, because people remember that. And the sunset might be nice, but you're not going to remember it.
yeah,
It has
no,
something that, why people remember handwriting better, because it's not perfect.
yeah, no,
It's just
absolutely.
how brain works that way. It gives something like a stop. Oh, maybe we should listen. I prepare my presentations, but I don't prepare my speech. But and then I talk about things that took me weeks to put together. And if something is not perfect, it's okay. It resonates because it's authentic.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Spiros, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. I really, really enjoyed it. Yeah, so how can people find out about you before we go?
I'm on Twitter, Spiros Margaris. They can Google me, LinkedIn. It's a kind of, if they put Spiros Margaris or FinTech, likelihood they will find me. And I guess when you put out the podcast, you will have links to 2, 3 social media platforms.
We will indeed. We will indeed. Lovely, lovely to hear from you and to talk about B2B influencer marketing and
Thank
your
you, Gordon.
successful journey.
Thank you very much. Thanks for listening, everyone. And yes.
That's it for another edition of Influence. And don't forget to subscribe to the show and give me your feedback, Gordon at gordonglenister.com, or you can follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, where you can also ask me a question. If you're able to give us a 5-star review, we really do appreciate it. And also, if you want help in creating an influencer marketing strategy, or you want to join the influencer marketing roundtable event, which we host every Wednesday morning on Zoom, then head over to gordonglenister.com where you can find out more about the details. And if you want to find out more about our shows and many others, go over to the MPN, the Marketing Podcast Network, and you can find them all there. Thanks as always to my producer Neil Whiteside from Freedom One. And until next time, from me, Gordon Glenister, it's bye for now.